In a little hut, one of the most respected sights in the world, quiet was broken, transfixed by a stunning mix of comedy and raw musical genius emanating from one person on stage. Carnegie Hall's crowd leaned forward. Roy Clark, the humble Virginia farm lad whose fast hands and sharp sense of humor crossed whatever genre he dared to touch, was that figure. He got classical lovers to tap their feet to bluegrass, and doubters came to see that the symphonies reverberating under those hallowed arches could be just as sophisticated as country music. But it was hardly the whole tale. Roy fought a private war behind the laughing and lightning-fast runs. He balanced the burden of constant traveling, the grind of weekly television, and a forthcoming health fight he hid even from close friends. Today we are looking at the concealed aspects of this cherished artist, from his humble beginnings, Roy's unflagging commitment, the sorrow he battled to conceal, and the scandals that molded his renowned reputation all defined him. Born in rural Virginia where tobacco barns dotted the area and every neighbor appeared to choose a melody after dinner, Hester, his father, labored from sunup to dusk. The nights were for music. Roy played in that same tobacco barn from childhood, rehearsing for hours till his fingers ached. By 14 he was already a local legend, taking home prizes in competitions people twice his age found difficult to master. Rumors circulated that he could still make a joke that had a whole audience laughing, manage guitar licks that baffled experienced musicians, and change instruments without skipping a beat. While most children relished their adolescent years, Roy juggled schoolwork with a developing musical career. Initially it was county fairs and talent events. Later he went to larger venues, joining Jimmy Dean on local television. About 17, out of nowhere he was a known name. But he soon discovered the cost of the shining lights. Smoky clubs late hours took the place of high school dances, rehearsals took the place of laid-back weekends. Many adults advised him he required a typical adolescent, but Roy was on a quest. He wanted to show that music was the universal language, the one thing enabling strangers to feel like family. Before long, Roy's focus expanded to include big cities such as Washington, D.C. plus Las Vegas. Critics first mocked him off as simply another country guy with a humorous twist, but he began to play his first note and that attitude vanished. Patrons in sparkling Vegas showrooms found themselves addicted to a banjo break they never anticipated to like. He swung into jazz chords, dipped into rock rhythms, and finally returned it all to his national core. Those who saw him felt an unspoken message. Labels should not restrict music. Rumors circulated that he was changing the rules. Old-school country purists criticized his boundary-pushing strategy, complaining he was tainting their genre. A younger generation, on the other hand, praised him for turning the banjo, guitar, and fiddle into creative tools rather than historical artifacts. His timing in comedy was included in the bundle, lightening performances that could otherwise be regular sets. By his mid-20s, Roy's unrelenting manner sent him on a crash path with national recognition. Then came the fateful year 1969, when CBS started Hee Haw. Though they had canceled past rural-themed shows, executives took a risk on a variety program mixing cornpone comedy with real country talent. The cornfield skits and knee-slapping gags drew eye-rolling from some viewers. Roy Clark was not only another stage presence, he had the friendly smile that connected jaw-dropping musicality and country chat. Roy would jump into a guitar fight that had people gasping while the performance served out jokes. Though gossip often surfaced that their relationship sometimes grew contentious off-screen, he and Buck Owens had a natural rapport. Both were powerful characters, both had distinct touring obligations, and both inspired great respect, but on film they were in sync. Their conversation sounded, "We know we're ridiculous, but just wait till you hear these solos." Others even hinted that the show's format could trivialize rural people, portraying them as caricatures for a national audience. Still, Roy stood up for its lightheartedness, arguing that it highlighted real down-home culture with a wink rather than a sneer. He thought the laughing united people, that disparities they never saw could be crossed with a simple banjo riff or a lighthearted sketch. Audiences welcomed the warmth, perceiving sincerity instead of ridicule in every part. Hee Haw turned into a cultural phenomenon. Every week families gathered around the television, laughing hysterically at the most corny jokes, just to be blown away seconds later by Roy's virtuoso picking. Even those who doubted found themselves listening in, pulled by the wonder of how a national comedy program was able to gather such a great following. With time, individuals forget they were viewing a format detractors had labeled doomed. Rather, they were captivated by the interaction of comedy and first-rate musicianship. Roy enjoyed the exposure but quickly found its concealed pitfalls. Offers flooded in from musical promoters, talk show hosts begged for his intelligence and talent, corporate events, unique appearances, and out-of-state trips kept him in great demand. The speed quickened with every passing year. He traveled so often that fatigue followed him everywhere. Real rest was uncommon, sleep was a luxury. Fans saw just the wide grin and shining eyes, they never imagined the price it cost to keep them amused. Whispers backstage suggested problems developing behind the scenes. Reportedly, some network officials wished to reduce Hee Haw's clear country feel in order to draw more metropolitan audiences. Some claimed the program was on the verge of reinforcing stereotypes. Roy walked that line. While he saw the humorous overstatements, he thought it highlighted small-town America usually downplayed in national media. He insisted the comedy was supposed to unite, not insult, so he would not compromise that down-home feel. By the mid-1970s, Roy's star had risen far beyond network television. Bridging a cultural divide many thought impossible, he amazed the audience at Carnegie Hall in 1975. Describing the scene, journalists said there was a banjo in an area often set aside for violins. An audience recognized for sophisticated taste gave a standing ovation. That performance ignited fervent controversy. Traditionalists and classical music circles were unsure how to interpret this national comic eclipsing certain of the most renowned performances worldwide. But there was no denying it. Roy Clark had come, and he wasn't going gently. The next year he traveled to the Soviet Union under Cold War, a bold step for any American artist. Rumors circulated that the State Department was hesitant to deploy a guy known for comic sketches and twangy solos into politically sensitive area. Roy, however, was certain that even the coldest ties might be melted by music. Largely unacquainted with country, Soviet listeners found themselves clapping along, captivated by his rapid plucking and broad smile. His humorous comments crossed linguistic boundaries and showed that a light-hearted attitude speaks to all people. In Japan they called him Lightning Fingers Clark to reflect the astonishing pace of his solos. Though bodily fractures started to show, his life appeared like a never-ending highlight reel. Roy was occasionally playing 6 or 7 days a week, juggling concert tours and Hee Haw movie commitments. He'd catch a late jet to the next city after filming several episodes back-to-back. Constant stage time, lack of sleep and fast food took a toll on his health. Sometimes stories got around about him requiring oxygen following a particularly demanding performance or coughing backstage. Official comments dismissed such events as little. Friends, on the other hand, saw the coughing spells that made him momentarily mute. Notwithstanding this, he always kept his humorous character. Should he have a bad night, he would put on an even larger grin for the following day. He thought the public deserved his best, regardless of his own feelings. While several employees expressed anxiety over his unyielding ambition, Roy dismissed them and concentrated on the music he cherished. Rumors spread that he fought with producers pushing him to slow down, undercutting their plans for Hee Haw appearances. He said he'd keep performing so long as his hands could still move. He observed soared in syndication even after CBS let it go, though. Savvy enough to detect changing market dynamics, Roy supported the show's relocation to local stations, which guaranteed its longevity for many years. Loyal fans continued to tune in even as the cultural tide turned more urban, particularly keen to witness Roy's guitar displays and humorous pieces. A group of detractors called the program old-fashioned or corny, saying it reinforced stereotypes about rural living. Roy remained unbothered. To him it was an opportunity to honor small-town culture on a scale he never imagined feasible. Roy expanded more as the 1980s went on. He sponsored music scholarships and gave instruments to underprivileged schools, hence supporting charitable activities. He thought every opportunity for the next generation to find the beauty buried within a guitar's strings was justified. Branson, Missouri residents crowded to his theater eager to witness him live. But under that enthusiasm, Roy suffered regular episodes of respiratory disease. Doctors cautioned him that his lungs were become more fragile and recommended rest and drugs. Occasionally, whispers of tension between Roy and Buck Owens also surfaced, though neither publicly verified any deep rift. Some claimed Buck despised Roy's humorous emphasis, therefore downplaying the strictly musical aspect of their collaboration. Others claimed they were only busy guys with different jobs. Yet some said the on-stage conversation between them sometimes seemed more pointed than meant. Whenever rumors spread, Roy calmed them with humorous quips, keeping the happy picture fans had come to adore. Come the 1990s, Roy faced each new day with a little more care since Hee Haw had finally finished its historic run. Though his visits grew a little less frequent, his commitment to mentoring grew stronger. After performances, he remained to sign autographs and provide fast courses on chord progressions or pick harmonics to young musicians. Hoping to reach aspiring guitarists all over the world, he even created teaching films. In private though, he worried about chronic fatigue and recurring bronchial infections. He realized his decades of pushing himself without pause were catching up. In 2005, a startling incident occurred at his Branson Theater. Halfway through a performance, Roy abruptly left the stage, gasping for air. Audience members shuffled nervously, unsure if it was a humorous part. Only when an announcer emerged apologizing for an unanticipated medical situation did people comprehend the significance. Fan talk arose concerning Roy's health. Tabloids speculated that he disguised a life-threatening disease for years. Some indicated he'd had heated disputes with management who urged him to dial back. Roy downplayed the drama, but he couldn't totally mask the new normal. He had to slow down, whether he wanted to or not. Over the next decade, he scaled back extensive tours, opting instead for select performances and recordings. He buried himself into his home studio, recording unreleased material and working with younger artists captivated by his approach. Continuing his goal of demystifying high-speed picking, he also spent time shooting online courses. Loyal admirers observed he didn't show up for cameo appearances or on chat shows as frequently. Roy suffered bouts of pneumonia and bronchitis behind closed doors. It made him very feeble. His wife Barbara became his rock and carer, balancing medical needs and calendars so he could still interact with fans in modest amounts. Roy's health was shaky by 2018, yet he clung to some independence. He would do little jam sessions at home, joking with buddies about past traveling experiences. He would not let despair cloud his last days, but pneumonia hit again in early November of that year, this time without mercy. He was hurried to a Tulsa hospital on November 15 morning. Medical staff fought to stabilize him, but his lungs had borne too much over the years. Word of his passing spread instantly, sending shockwaves through Nashville and beyond. Tributes poured in from every corner of the music world. Keith Urban complimented Roy for illustrating that a guitarist could be as captivating with humor as with fretboard skill. Vince Gill sadly told how Roy once remained after a play simply to show him a tough banjo roll. Brad Paisley recalled Hee Haw skits that fueled his early passion with combining jokes and guitar solos. These weren't ordinary courtesy words, they were honest admissions that Roy had opened the road for many contemporary stars. Mourners from all around participated. Japanese fans remembered the lightning fingers who challenged their preconceptions about American music. Russian fans recalled how he crossed a great cultural gap. Clips from vintage Hee Haw episodes showing Roy's comic timing and virtuoso performances flooded social media. Displaying his characteristic instruments and clothes, the Country Music Hall of Fame created a specific memorial site. Surveying the damaged fretboards and well-worn shoes, evidence of a life spent on the move, visitors reported a strange combination of tears and thankfulness. Roy's narrative, however, went beyond nostalgia. His cross-genre approach had transformed guitar playing. Younger country musicians still study those picking patterns to know how to integrate jazz chords into barn-burning banjo breaks. Teachers started including the Clark technique into official music courses, viewing it as a door to investigate the crossroads of tradition and invention. Scholars penned articles on how Hee Haw's humorous packaging really brought rural culture to millions who could have rejected country music offhand. Fans still question whether Roy paid too great a price for always moving fast. Did his humorous aspect eclipse the deeper musician he was within? Did the brilliant lights hide the silent sacrifice of a guy who continued pushing forward despite his lungs pleading with him to stop? Though rumors still fly, one truth endures. Roy Clark's kindness, creativity, and giving spirit transformed country music forever. He broadcasted the core of small-town America around the world, educating people that a banjo could ring in Carnegie Hall and that a joke could bring people together across continents. What then was Roy Clark's actual secret? Maybe it was his capacity to fill every stage with a welcoming attitude. Even when he had earned the privilege, he never behaved like a superstar. Rather, he appeared to be the nice neighbor with supernatural ability who just happened to exist. Whether you were a staunch country fan or a curious newbie lured in by his appeal, it was simple to love him. His performance ranged from 1 minute of laughter to the next gasp, a flawless mix of comic glimmer and sincere choosing. Roy had guided thousands either directly or indirectly by the end of his life. He supported scholarships, documented lessons and inspired younger musicians to challenge limits. He always thought music should be a celebration. The idea of amusing someone out there even at his worst times gave him hope. His legacy emphasizes that you may be honest and showman both. With one song you can cross boundaries and be both a serious musician and a comic powerhouse. Years after his last bow, Roy Clark's spirit remains in all from small-town jam sessions to the peak of the country charts. Archived hee-haw videos preserve his unrelenting smile, which reminds us that even in a time of strife, laughter transcends boundaries. Even experienced guitarists who stop and consider, how did he do that, find his lightning-fast solos perplexing. Roy, though, would advise, just keep practicing, kid. And don't forget to grin. Should you take one item from his life, let it be this. When shared with humility, great skill becomes legendary. Roy's narrative challenges us to investigate uncharted area, to greet others with wide arms and to chuckle in the face of hardship. He left a pattern of musical enchantment, compassion and genuineness. Ultimately, that could be his best present ever given. Should you find these concealed aspects of Roy Clark's life intriguing, share the narrative. Share it with those who question the ability of one artist to influence a whole genre. Every time you hum a song or tell a well-timed joke, keep that banjo ringing. Roy taught us that success is about shattering the mold with flair, passion and a sprinkle of bold fun rather than about fitting it. Above all, he showed that behind every y'all return now can lie a life-altering piece of art waiting to be released. Should you appreciate this video, please like and subscribe as well as press the next video displayed on your screen.